Hi, everyone. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited today because I get to chat with my dear friend and beautiful soul, Jane Gleeson-White. I'm so excited to have you here. Oh my goodness, welcome.
Thank
And
you.
Jane is, gosh, she's not just a best-selling author and editor and speaker and teacher and creator. She's also an incredible astrologer and a real out of the box thinking maverick soul and pioneer. So I'm just so thrilled to have you here today and to talk about astrology with me on my new channel. So welcome.
Yay.
Um, just wondering how you're surfing these Pisces energies.
Thank you so much, Kat. Just honoring your beautiful soul and our amazing friendship and serendipitous meeting through plants, which feels very right for this nodal axis with Virgo. I have to say, I felt this kind of energy really immediately, this nodal axis of Pisces Virgo, because that's where my natal nodes are. My south node is in Pisces, my north node is in Virgo. So I'm feeling extraordinary, a quite overwhelming and beautiful, ever-present presence of love, actually, which I only really thought this morning coherently because of our conversation. I thought, oh, it feels actually palpable, like it's present. This presence of love that I'm feeling, which I've just been really noticing in a lovely way, I thought, oh, that's probably the North Node in Pisces, you know, with all the Neptunian influence, just bringing this love down. I mean, I don't want to go too much into that detail without maybe discussing what the nodes are and, why this is so hugely significant. So, but yeah, but where are you at? How are you feeling it before we go into what the nodes actually are?
Yeah, it's pretty big. I love Pisces season so much. It's very expansive and creative, and I tend to spend so much time just sitting and drinking tea and staring out the window and watching the moon. Um, I wake up in the middle of the night and think of like wild ideas and have to write them down, and I get super creative. And yeah, I've had quite a creative couple of weeks actually. So I'm loving it, but I'm also feeling, there's so much change happening in the world,
Yeah.
and feels like everybody around me is just letting go of so much, like whether it's grief or it's just like surrendering to, like I don't know what's going on, but it feels like it's all meant to be somehow. And so yeah, there's a lot of people really digging deep to find faith like within themselves. And there's so much going on in Pisces right now. Like there's all these planets, Neptune and Saturn and the Sun and the North Node, and Mercury and Venus have just been through there, and they're going back in there and they're retrograde and stuff. And it just feels like really huge because this is the first time that the North Node has been in Pisces with Neptune. And yeah, you were just saying that we should probably explain what the node is. I think you're probably going to explain it better than me, so I'm going to let you do that.
But thank you, Kat. And it's so important to emphasize how much activity is in Pisces, the sign of Pisces, how many planets, and also coming in and out of Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So we're working with the end of the cycle and the beginning of a new one, and so much else is going on in March. But yeah, so I absolutely love the nodes and have been fascinated since I started studying astrology in the early 90s because mine is so loaded with planets. And so there are 2 points where the orbit of the moon intersects with the ecliptic. And the ecliptic is the sort of plane of the Earth's rotation around the sun. And the cycle is, I think it's about 18.6 years. It's roughly 19 years. And although these are kind of abstract mathematical points, they have a real bearing on the Earth because of the way that the eclipses work. And so when the eclipses are there, it's like the moon, the sun aligned, dragging the Earth's waters to one side. So huge king tides. And there's actually been a really interesting study in 2022, interesting year, because that was when Jupiter was conjunct Neptune in Pisces, that demonstrated that the nodal orbit of 19-ish years had actually visibly, physically affected the dying, sadly, of mangroves in northern Australia in the Gulf of Carpentaria. So scientists kind of postulated that, or hypothesized, that this might be the action of the moon's nodes, because it was otherwise inexplicable, this 19-year kind of cycle. And so I just thought, oh, how beautiful that what is actually a kind of abstract mathematical point has a real impact on the Earth because of the moon's gravity and effect, the way it pulls our tides, all our waters, our watery beings, which is, again, very Piscean. But the other thing that I really want to say is, because they are abstract points, not physical planets, that we can kind of, determine what that chemical makeup is and get some kind of more material kind of information about, that already tells us that they're quite mystical, they're quite vibrational, their impact is kind of very karmic, very ancestral, very mysterious, and very, I mean, it's palpable, as we've both kind of suggested, but it's kind of beyond our conventional, let's just say, rational minds. It's beyond our Mercury minds, to go to something that you were talking about earlier, Kat, before we started recording. So I really just want to make that clear up front, both how real they are and yet how mysterious and unseen, because that just feels actually a perfect kind of summary of North Node in Pisces, mysterious, South Node in Virgo, because they're always opposite each other. The opposite sign of Pisces is Virgo, which is the earth sign that can embody spirit. So this is like the very realness of the nodes with the very mysteriousness of the nodes in Pisces. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I love that. I always think of the nodes as being like these, it's kind of like the wave and the particle, like they're like the wave. It's like the ecliptic, where all the planets cross, not just the moon, but everything. When it crosses, it's like I feel like the ecliptic plane captures the essence of the planet as they cross. And so I see the nodes, I mean, because the nodes are being formed all the time, like they have for billions of years, right? So they've been crossing. So it's like this concentration of data that's like as the planets are crossing, they're kind of like downloading and uploading, as they intersect the ecliptic. It's like a huge computer or something. I don't know, but this is how I tune into the nodes as actual real balls of consciousness, like full of data. And because a node is like it's like a knot, right? It's like I see it as being full, like the magic, because it captures the essence of the moon. So yeah.
And what I would add, astrologically, is that in Chinese astrology and Indian astrology, it's the north node is the mouth of the serpent or the dragon, and the south node is the tail. So it's a very collective energy, and we move like where the north node is, which is currently in Pisces and went in on the 12th of January this year, is where we're sort of being invited to go energetically, to sit in this energy of Pisces right now, collectively on the planet. And then the South Node is the familiar place that we have known and that we're being asked to kind of rethink, and especially if it's in Virgo, ruled by Mercury, to rethink and expand and shift. So the nodes I think of as like a pulse, where the North Node is where we're heading to, but the main action is sort of through the South Node, and to kind of, re-energize that cosmic signature of the zodiac, which in this case is Virgo. And just also to add that where they were previously, because the nodes go in the reverse to the sun's movement through the zodiac. So they've just come out of North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra. And that seems hugely significant to me, because I feel that what we've just come through is an 18-month season of finding our own selfhood, our sovereignty, through kind of working with our relationships and releasing old patterns of codependency, of people pleasing, of giving to the other what we should be giving to ourselves. Basically, of that Libran thing of balancing our relationship between ourselves and the other. But because the North Node is in Aries, it's the self that has to be honored. And that's a very solar plexus, first person singular I, which can be really difficult for many people on the planet who've been silenced for millennia. So I feel that that was a necessary sort of activation, so that now we can expand ourselves into source through kind of expanding our physical vessel, which is Virgo, to kind of contain more and more of this cosmic love that's flooding in. So that's kind of how I would also see that. I know that you have different ways of talking about this, of course, because you have a very different experience of it. So with your South Node in Virgo and North Node in Pisces, you know, the reverse to my nodes.
Yeah, totally. So, and this is what I love about it, because, you know, we're like on opposite hemispheres, and, you know, we're just about to have our equinoxes and kind of switch, right? And, you know, every year we always tune into each other as we flip there on the equinoxes. And so I think it's really cool that we also have our nodes inverse. Like I have my North Node in Pisces, exactly conjunct the sun on this upcoming eclipse, lunar eclipse, which is I'm really excited about. And yeah, so as you were saying, Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, so the ruler of the South Node, and Neptune as the ruler of the North Node. And like you said, the nodes just shifted from Aries into Pisces. So at the same time as our souls are starting a whole cycle of the zodiac again and rebirthing kind of by going retrograde into Pisces, Neptune is the ruler, while of the North Node is going to be moving into Aries and then coming back and forth for the whole of 2025, which is it's just mind-boggling. Like, just, you know, to think, just to have Neptune moving into Aries is such a big deal. But for us to have this nodal cycle, this nodal transit through Pisces, which, like you said, it happens every 18.5 years, but for it to happen with Neptune at the end of the zodiac, at the end of Pisces, even just being in Pisces with, you know, with the North Node is really huge. But to be together at the end of the zodiac, it just feels really huge. And especially because when I tune into Mercury and Neptune as rulers of these nodes, and because I'm experiencing them backwards to you, because Mercury is ruling my South Node and Neptune is ruling my North Node. And so I feel like, for me, like how this has felt has been, I see both Mercury and Neptune as involved in like the construction, like how we create our reality. Like Mercury is, you know, about how we think, how we perceive, how we interpret and map out our reality and give meaning to things, because things don't have meanings, we give them meaning. And so some of that comes from our programming and conditioning and everything, but we give meaning to things. Like, they don't have labels on them. They don't, like, we decide what things mean. And then so we build our reality, and Mercury is connected to how we're mapping that out as well as creating it, and how we're making sense of what we're perceiving and creating meaning. But then Neptune is involved in dissolving that reality and helping us to, you know, discover that 3D reality is an illusion, and what we thought was true it was all a reality. And so there's no meaning. It's like we forget who we are, but we also remember that we're source, like you said. We're connecting with that oneness of ourselves as source, but we're also recognized, and through doing that, we recognize that it wasn't real. This whole life that we had was not real. It was real to our human element because we experienced it in 3D and we have to believe our simulation, right? But it wasn't real. And so there's this dissolving, which I'm feeling in the collective. Like it's like people are trying to hang on to things and trying to, like everything. Reality is obviously we're all experiencing our own reality right now. It's becoming more and more apparent, right? So yeah, so what do you think about the South Node in Virgo? Like, how do you feel? How does that feel for you? Because you have your North Node in Virgo. So I'm just
So much came up when you were talking just then, Kat, but I will hope to filter it through the South Node in Virgo, which would be a very good exercise for my North Node. And just incidentally, for your audience who might not be as familiar with astrology, I'm sure many of you are, but the way that this energy operates in a personal chart is that the South Node is our past life sort of experience and what we're familiar with and what we usually experience in our early life, in our childhood, definitely, and often into our teens. And it can go on, dominating our lives for a very long time, because the North Node is what is unfamiliar to us. It's uncomfortable and it can be challenging, but it's the sweetest point on the zodiac or in our charts for when we work the North Node. It gives the greatest pleasure and satisfaction, but we actually have to work quite hard because it's brand new energy for us this lifetime. So I have my South Node in Pisces, so being dissolute, and well, not dissolute, but being kind of merged with the cosmos, tuning out, daydreaming, being away with the pixies, being a kind of hermit, like sitting in a cupboard reading a book as a child. That is very Piscean energy. That is so familiar to me. But what this lifetime is inviting me to do is to get very specific and very Virgoan, which, as Kat said, is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury, as you've also indicated, well, it rules language and communication. And it's about gathering in Virgo. So it also rules Gemini. And incidentally, Jupiter is currently today conjunct the moon in Gemini. So amplifying wondrous conversation about big picture questions. But Virgo likes to collect information and kind of make sense of it, put it in order. It rules kind of the home, it rules housework, it rules any kind of organizing, daily practice, daily rituals, daily devotions. So it's such a beautiful sign. And as its name suggests, it's sort of associated with the Virgin. I mean, yes, the Virgin Mary, but also those virgin goddesses like Artemis, and I would even go so far as to say Lilith, but the ancient symbols of women who were unto themselves. Vesta, the temple goddesses, which didn't mean that they didn't have relationships with men, but they didn't marry men. They didn't give themselves over to the domestic sphere. And, let's bring up Vesta because she's going to be big in the first eclipse of this nodal season, which is in Virgo. She is the priestess of the hearth and of the temple hearth, and she keeps the flame alight. And that seems hugely significant at this moment. And sorry, I'm shivering all over because that's very much her practice of daily devotions to keeping the flame. And it's not a raging bushfire. It's not out of control energy burning everything down in its wake. It's a flame at the hearth that must be honored, maintained. It's the spark of life. It's fire, and she, even though Virgo is an earth sign, I feel that daily devotion to, let's say, fire, let's say love, let's say the heart. If Leo rules the heart and it's a fire sign, that daily, and because Virgo comes after Leo, so the fire is lit by Leo, Virgo tends to it. And so I've really been feeling this Virgo South Node as inviting me very strongly, like almost insisting that I continue to be grounded in a daily devotion, a daily sort of ritual practice. And it can be as simple as walking outside the minute I get up. And I'm in Sydney, Australia, so it's the end of summer, so still very lovely weather. Is going outside and just honoring where I am, honoring my ancestors, honoring the earth, all who've walked here before me, honoring the sky, the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars, and just kind of grounding into my center, my whole central channel, but then into my heart, and actually saying it out loud. You know, the neighbors probably think I'm crazy. They're friends of mine, so they probably already know that I'm eccentric, or you know, I'm an astrologer and interested in unseen realms. But yeah, it just can be so simple. And I feel very much in relation to the natural world, because Virgo also rules nature, which we've called all the other beings of the earth who aren't humans, and animals and pets. So I feel that it's a lot about that as well. And, you know, funnily enough, before I came on today, I was in the kitchen just cleaning out a coffee pot that a friend who's staying had left. And I thought, actually, that's a very Virgoan devotion, to be cleaning a coffee pot before I come on to talk about these nodes. You know, it's not a kind of menial task. It's an act of devotion, you know, to be maintaining a house, as any person who maintains a house knows. But there's something that keeps offering itself to me that keeps escaping, but maybe I'll come back to it, in terms of this Virgo energy, because also I'd say it's very, very simple. It's very, very simple, because Pisces is huge. And as you've said so beautifully, Kat, it's this dissolution energy. And I feel we haven't been given practices in our culture to contain this huge love of the cosmos, other than mediated by priests and, you know, religious figures and other figures. But a direct encounter with it can be hugely confronting, because it requires us to expand here in our bodily earth forms, our Virgo vessels. And that can bring up a lot of grief, because to be in our bodies, you know, I've done a lot of work with trauma, both my own and the people whose charts I read. And it's a daily devotion. It's a one step forward, two steps back, to open our hearts to feel, because of all the wounding and vulnerability. So that's a very long answer to how I'm feeling the Virgo energy.
I'm writing down so many things. I love it. Thank you so much. I love your description of Virgo, because my my experience with Virgo has been a lot more of the shadow, because I have, you know, the South Node in Virgo conjunct with Pluto. So
it's very wounded energy, though, on the planet. Let's just put it out there. It's one of the most wounded energies on the planet. The Virgin, the image of the Virgo, the Virgin. I mean, it's like the flip side of the age of Pisces. Sorry to interrupt, Kat, but yeah. So honoring your experiencing of that.
Thank you. Sorry about the sirens. I'm not sure if you can hear them, but they decided to be all over town at the moment. So as I think about South Node in Virgo, or when I think about the South Node in general, you know, if you think about the moon crossing the ecliptic plane, and that being connected to our past life or the past, it feels like that's where we kind of bring the fear frequencies from the past life, you know, like how they kind of become encoded within us, like when we come into this incarnation. And so for me, like, this grounded feel is something I've been craving for my whole life, and also trying to create order out of chaos, but not doing it because I'm very Virgo and because I like things in order. No, it's doing it from like a sense of like, it's like shutting down, you know, like the way hoarders shut down, like they just, it's like, I don't know, I'm overwhelmed with too many things, and I'm struggling to simplify. So for me, now that I realize that what I've been seeking all this time is a frequency of simplification. And for me, like this expanding out, this very expansive Neptunian Piscean energy, when you go to the other end of that, it's automatically feels grounded to me now, because I recognize that as my point of origin, like in the center of my chart. And so I kind of connect when I tether myself. I mean, we're already tethered. It's just that we feel like we're not, right? It's just an illusion. But when I feel untethered, ungrounded, as soon as I connect with Mother Earth as Earth, you know, like not just connect with her, like I'm just on her, like we are Earth, we're part of Earth. So I connect with her origin point, like in her core. And it just, it helps me to feel grounded in the way that I feel that happens to us when we, you know, because we're separated when we're born, which is, you know, the moon's a big part of that story, you know, how we get separated from our mothers. And Ascended Master Zachariah once said that when we're born and we come out into this incarnation and we're separated, that Mother Earth says to us, you know, I'm here, I've got you. And so I feel that when I connect with my origin point and her origin point, that I feel that from her, I feel that from Mother Earth, that like, not just that I've got you, but I've always had you, you know. And so it's that connection with I feel it in my solar plexus mostly. But, and what you were saying about, you know, honoring our body as like the sacred temple is something that I've also had to learn. You know, it's kind of a recent thing for me. I felt disconnected from my body my whole life. So this is just my story of my South Node in Virgo. I mean, it's playing out for everybody, you know, depending on what they have. And like you said, it depends on the natal chart, like where these nodes fall in their specific chart, which house, and where I think that all of our nodes are being activated as well, you know, because of
100%.
period. So also looking at your own North nodes as well as where the transiting North node is and where it is in relation to itself in your chart. But yeah, so there's lots of that feeling of wanting to tether, I think, for everybody right now. And Pisces, I mean, both Mercury and Neptune are very fluid planets, and the north, the nodes of the moon are the moon, which is another fluid. I mean, it's just very, it's very fast change right now. And there's, but like you said, we're moving from the South node to the North node, and what I feel that we're moving towards, like if we can get that tethering through the Virgo energy, then we can expand into the oneness of all that we are as source, and to recognize that we, you know, we're here, we come here to 3D to experience the illusion of separation, where we come here to pretend that we're not source, so that at the end we can remember that we are. And so it's, you know, it's about dissolving into oneness, but not leaking our energy out into the collective because we feel like it's, you know, we're getting caught in this, you know, this self sacrifice kind of thing, like between Virgo and Pisces that goes on there. That's definitely something that I've been, you know, my soul's been playing with for a long time. Does that resonate with you, having South Node in Pisces?
Absolutely. That's so beautiful, Kat. I really shivered all over when you mentioned the Ascended Master Zachariah's quote about when we're born, Mother Earth is saying, I've got you. And that's 100% been my recent experience, as I told you about suddenly this extraordinary plant called Damiana appearing before me during a plant workshop with an amazing Australian plant, which I'd call her, I'm not sure, she would not mind me calling her that, Jackie Bushell. And this plant is a deeply rooting plant. It's, you know, it brings you back into your body. I feel it's very Virgoan. And as Jackie described it, this plant, and I'm drinking Damiana tea right now, says to you, don't worry, darling, I've got you, and I will hold you until you can hold yourself. And so what that reminded me of when you mentioned Zach's beautiful truth is that Mother Earth does have us. And yet we have not been allowed to remember that, because the last 2,000 years of the age of Pisces, with Christianity and the other monotheistic religions, have been body and earth and women denying and silencing and crushing. So returning to your the way that you've experienced this Virgo energy, it's hugely desecrated on the planet, and it's about the plants, and it's about the animals, and it's about women, and it's about all silenced creatures, whether they have language to speak. Well, all creatures, all plants, all animals have language to speak, but we have forgotten how to listen to it, to hear it. So I just really want to honor that, Kat. And the other thing, oh yeah, the your experience of not being in your body. I mean, that's been so true to me, because my South Node is in Pisces. So as I said at the beginning, I'm used to just being diffused everywhere, to being distributed everywhere. And the other thing I'll say about this energy, these two signs, is they're mutable signs as well. So they are very, like ephemeral. They will sort of merge and fit with whatever is going on. But the other thing I really want to honor about both of them as well is traditionally they are associated with healing, the great power of healing. For Virgo, the healing of herbs and hands and, dreams and being in dream temples where we, Asclepius, and for Pisces, it's like, again, dream visioning, because Pisces is so much about dreams and visions and hermitages and, all of the practices that we've lost touch with. And it's very interesting. Heather Ensworth, an extraordinary astrologer from near Boston, speaks. She's very interested in the precessional cycle and this shift now into the age of Aquarius from the 2,000-year age of Pisces. And in her understanding of this 2,000-year cycle, she feels that the first 1,000 years is about the energy of where the sun is aligned at the spring equinox, which was with the stars of Pisces, constellation of Pisces. But then the second half of it is to work with the shadow or the polar sign, which is Virgo. And as she so rightly says, instead of, say the wisdom of all those extraordinary visionaries from around the age of Jesus Christ, with all their beautiful messages of love, instead of that sort of being as he and all the others, Buddha and I'm not even going to go through the names, but all those fathers of the, let's call them monotheistic religions, all those, that wisdom about love that was meant for all the people to have in their own lives was kind of co-opted by the institution, the patriarchal institutions, and kind of put in a church, and people were disconnected from their direct relationship with source, let's say. And then during the age of, in the next 1,000 years, when maybe we were supposed to be working with the shadow side of that and of the Virgo energy, which can be fear and escaping from the body and too much control, too much in the kind of rational mind, too much wanting to take control of everything. We didn't do that either. So this moment now, as Pluto has shifted into Aquarius, the fact that we have the nodes right here, right now, because Pluto only permanently shifted into Aquarius last November, feels hugely significant in the context of that as well. And so for the South Node, it feels very much about healing all that wounded energy of the earth, of our relationship to all the beings of the earth and Mother Earth herself, to remember that, as you said, it is so simple. The earth actually has us. We are actually safe and we can actually trust. Not saying that's easy to do because we haven't been brought up like that, but it's really simple and it's a daily devotion, a daily practice. And then, yeah, so for my experience with the South Node in Pisces, I guess in a good way, has been an ease of communication with all the beings, with the plants and the trees and the animals. And since I was a child, which used to be really scary, to admit. Not scary to experience. It was completely normal that trees actually spoke to me. But I kept it hidden for obvious reasons. But now I don't feel that I have to keep it hidden anymore. So another thing I'm feeling about this North Node in Pisces, and this time more generally with all the big shifts that are happening, including Pluto in Aquarius, is I genuinely feel, despite appearances to the contrary in some of the big hotspots of the world, that it is actually safe for everyone to come out of hiding, all the kind of mystics and visionaries and vulnerable people and sensitive people and neurodiverse people and queer and, you know, all the LGBTQ. I know in America that might feel like an outrageous thing to say, but there are so many of us on the planet right now. We're actually the majority, and it is safe in whatever way we can begin to trust ourselves to experience. That would be almost my kind of clarion call for this year. It is actually, to the extent that it feels right for each of us, because we're all at hugely different stages of feeling safe with this, it is safe to begin to come out and to speak and to connect.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Every word. It's yeah, it really feels like I wanted to kind of loop back to something you said earlier, before I forget, about the age of Pisces. So the age of Pisces, I feel as well, it's about letting go of Jupiter as its ruler. I know that it's the traditional ruler, but I mean, it's been about religion being the people giving power away to some. It's all about the illusion of separation, really. We've been kind of conditioned, programmed to believe that source is separate from us. And I feel that now, as we move into this age of Aquarius, well, we're probably already in it. I'm not sure when exactly it starts, but part of being in the North Node being in Pisces is about, as we merge into that oneness, one of the things that's dissolving is this tribal mentality, which I feel is, Pluto in Aquarius is about the breakdown of this tribal mentality that's separated us. And, this moralistic right and wrong, black and white kind of thinking that because everybody thinks that their truth is the truth, but it's not, it's just one perspective based on, the coordinates and the points in time and space that you came into physical form. This is your perspective of the universe. So when we can just allow everyone to hold that origin point of perspective of the universe and allow them to have a different opinion without being threatened by it, then that for me feels very, the Aquarian age, where it feels safe to disagree, where, oh, well, I feel differently about that. Okay, would you want to collaborate? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so as this, so I feel like, yeah, that's, and Jupiter has actually been in a quintile. I mean, it's just moved now, but it was in an exact quintile with the Aries point and with Neptune as Neptune came up. So it's been, and with the North Node as it crossed, Jupiter was in a quintile with it, which is 72-degree aspect, which I love to work with these aspects. And that felt really powerful for me to have Jupiter and Neptune in this quintile. And as you said, like you were having earlier about the flooding in Australia that you had when Jupiter and Neptune came together in Neptune in, was it April 2022?
It was March and then a bit of April, but the flooding here happened in March, yeah.
Flooding, yeah. And so, and didn't you say that you're having storms right now? And
Well, there's a cyclone off the coast of southern Queensland, northern New South Wales, which is exactly where all those floods happened in 2022, with Neptune at the last degree of Pisces, kind of revisiting its long transit since 2012 through Pisces. So, yeah.
and the full moon lunar eclipse is going to be on that same degree. The sun's going to be where Jupiter and Neptune was. And I believe even Venus was there too, because I remember it was on my North Node. Jupiter and Neptune came together on my North Node. So right now, the Neptune is like my North Node and the North Node, and everything's all squished in with Saturn and the sun and everything right now. So I'm feeling very lots of Pisces energy right now. So yes, and the other thing that you were talking about, our connection with the earth, and I feel like because the earth herself, because we're part of earth, we're going along with her upgrade that she's getting, you know, as we move through this plasma corridor of the universe, where we're getting all this, you know, we're moving through the photon belt. And so this is, you know, a reflection of, you know, this huge expansion in consciousness that's happening, just as Neptune's about to move into a whole new cycle of the zodiac. So yeah, lots of endings and beginnings and letting go, completions, starting things. There's just a lot of there's a lot going on right now in Pisces, and you know, just in the interest of time, if there was something else that you wanted to talk about earlier on, and I just wanted to make sure that we covered it, about something in the upcoming transits. Did you want to talk about the eclipse, or
I just,
with so many transits that are happening right now, is there something that's really alive for you that you want to talk about, that's about to come up? Like the second half of March looks pretty wild in terms of the energy.
yeah, thanks, Kat. What I really wanted to say, but just went, was, oh yes, thank you for mentioning Saturn in Pisces, because that's another container. So it feels like Saturn is also helping us, you know, Saturn, which traditionally rules Capricorn and is traditionally seen as a planet of heaviness and weight and earth, but actually the planet Saturn itself is lighter than water, and if put on an ocean would float. And so I feel we're having a transformation, a dissolution of our ideas of what form and earth actually are, to be, and again, this is inspired by Heather Ensworth's understanding, which I think is profoundly true, and I've experienced it with my own Saturn, that Saturn is actually a shamanic planet. It is the last visible planet. It's the gateway to the invisible realm with the naked human eye. And so it is, again, a shapeshifter, and it's now in Pisces. And I feel that it's doing many things there. It's allowing us to expand our earthly containers, I feel. But I feel it's also inviting us, because it's so much about, it's such a planet of wisdom. I feel it's inviting us to just open our minds to other ways of thinking about the material world, because it feels true, and I know that many traditions say this in their prophecies, that we're literally lightening up, and I can feel it in myself. And I think it's because if you open to a more and more love, it's a very buzzy kind of feeling. You literally feel sort of lightheaded. And I feel, you know, just at a very basic level, it's a lot about that. And so I feel Saturn is here as a teacher of that. But the other thing that really came into my head like a flash when you were just talking, Kat, about all this energy in Pisces, was I feel, and especially Neptune, I feel it's Neptune's message, and now amplified in its home sign at the last degree before it goes into Aries. It's saying, as to the extent that we can, honoring how hard this is for our rational minds, to let go and trust. To let go and trust. But for me, I wanted to quote, I was listening again to Heather Ensworth, I mean, recommending her to everyone. She's extraordinary if you don't already know her. She's a great reader of Rumi, and for the Virgo full moon eclipse coming up, she said, as an aside, she mentioned a Rumi quote, but for me, it perfectly summarizes this nodal axis of North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo. And it is, and it's very beautiful, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built, I'm going to cry, against it.
Yeah.
Doesn't that, you know, so love being the kind of Pisces energy, and Virgo being the structure building kind of barrier making, because hard to be in the body. So yeah, it's a sort of inward journey into dissolving the barriers that our hearts and bodies have so wisely constructed against all the slings and arrows of our life experience in this, let's call it a toxic culture that we've created in the West, of desecration of the earth, desecration of anyone who doesn't kind of fit with some mainstream idea of what success looks like and achievement and all the things. I don't need to traumatize us by naming them. So yeah, they would be my concluding thoughts, Kat. How about you?
I love it. I love that you talked about Saturn in Pisces as well. So I just wanted to tell you about what I feel, what I've picked up. There's so much I could say about Saturn in Pisces, but for me, it's really felt, for me, it's been about taking full responsibility and ownership for the reality that I'm creating, all of it.
Beautiful.
And it's been about recognizing that 3D reality is the illusion. So, and for me, Saturn has felt like this, you know, and I think this really feels like when you look at the shape of the astrology, like for this eclipse, it's like, you know, like this beautiful kite. It's like a chalice for me. This Saturn down at the bottom, it's like this upside down mountain, you know, like holding the ocean, and, you know, holding, it's like, you know, the embodiment of the Father within, like kind of being, holding, you know, holding, being our own divine masculine container for our source energies to flow. And so it's about the embodiment of the Father and our, you know, balanced divine masculine and that sovereign energy. But so yeah, it's like this chalice kind of shaped, like, especially when I put it in my transit chart, it's just like this beautiful Star of David. And all the other thing about Saturn in Pisces that I feel is dissolving is this old mentality, you know, based on, you know, this reward punishment kind of positive negative reinforcement. And you know, because when we try to do things to that achievement and success that you were talking about, when we do it for external reward or for anything external instead of the intrinsic motivation, like for me, Saturn, it's about doing the work of the soul, because you get to evolve. That's your reward, is that you get to evolve and experience magic and miracles, you know, as you transcend all these themes. But when we are trying to get, you know, external approval and validation and recognition, which is like the shadow side of Saturn, and you know, if we want to be rewarded externally, then we're doing it backwards. And so I feel like this, you know, ever since Pluto moved out of Capricorn into Aquarius, you know, that was like the collapse of that old structure, you know, like the institutions collapsing and all that kind of thing. But I feel like the punishment reward, it goes throughout all the institutions, and that's, you know, we're seeing it in education and everywhere, you know, healthcare, everything. It's all based on punishment and reward and compliance, right? And so this is what's dissolving, I feel, you know, with Saturn, and also, you know, the illusion of separation. And 3D reality is the illusion. And so, and also just dissolving, like for me, I see my external world not just connected to me, like interconnected, but I see it as actually as my own feedback system. It's part of my channel. The whole external world is me, as myself as source. And so I feel that the North Node in Pisces with Neptune there is going to help everyone to see the totality of all that they are as source, because we see ourselves separate from our external world. But that's all dissolving as well. It's not dissolving. We're still sovereign. We're still, because we have our sovereign perspective of the universe. And we each have our own universe, I feel. We each have our own version of the universe that we're creating. And so, yeah, so with Mercury and Neptune together, it's like the, you know, the linear and the non-linear brain kind of working together to do that with our reality, to construct it and deconstruct it and forget who we are and remember who we are. And it's just a never-ending cycle. So
Yes.
yes,
Pulse.
that's kind of how I see it, kind of in a nutshell, really. But oh my goodness, I could talk to you for hours on this, but I guess we
I
should
know.
wrap it up. But I just, before we go, I just want you to let people know where they can find you online. And because you are an incredible author and you have books, but you have so many offerings. So where can people find you online?
Oh, thank you, Kat. Also, just honoring everything you said then about Saturn. I feel all of that very deeply as well, and very good to mention Pluto's transit through Capricorn, which has just ended. So, well, I have a website, janegleesonwhite.com. I mean, maybe you can put that below. I'm not very active on Instagram. I do have an Instagram account, but it's you know, a private account. But probably the best way to contact me or find out what I do is through my website. Yeah. And I do give astrological readings, but for the moment, I'm only doing them based in Australia, not internationally. I've had to kind of rethink and, you know, come in. Maybe I'm doing the Virgo South Node, kind of coming into the center and just kind of, you know, not diffusing myself too far afield for the moment, but that will change probably in the next 6 months after all the upheavals of the next few months.
Mhm.
So thank you, Kat. I mean, honoring you and your magical astrological adventures and your beautiful Piscean North Node and your wise Virgo South Node.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I've loved every second of this conversation. Thank you so much, Jane. And I'm hoping that we can do this again one day. And yeah, I'm really excited to have you here on my channel. And I just want to thank everyone for listening, whoever's watching. And yeah, we'll be doing this again soon. Thank you so much. Bye for
Thank
now.
you.